What's up, everyone? So today I decided to make this video talking about Dragon Ball Daima. Okay, I actually made a video about Dragon Ball Daima back when the first trailer came out, and I was kind of hating on it. And I think I was wrong about some things. I actually did enjoy the show. I think Daima has great animation. I think the animation is beautiful. I think the amount of effort that was put into it and the fighting choreography and just the way everything looks visually is the gold standard of what all Dragon Ball should be. And I honestly think that Dragon Ball Super should have actually been animated this way and should have looked this way from the very beginning. Um, I think that this is the standard that should be held for something such as Dragon Ball. And in the past, I don't think we've gotten that. And that's another reason why people really love the Broly film, is because of such beautiful animation in the Broly movie, the newer one. So, I was wrong about a lot of things. I thought the show was going to be bad because they turned into kids. The thing is, I didn't like the fact that they were kids, but the sole fact that they can transform into their Super Saiyan forms, I was sold on the idea and I didn't care that they were kids anymore. My main thing that I said from the very beginning when I was hating on it and saying that it would be a terrible show was that if they don't transform, it's going to make it even worse. But I said if they were able to transform, that there could be a chance that it could be good. Because obviously, when they need to transform and fight, that means that, it's going to be a little bit more serious. Like, it's not going to be all goofy and childish. Well, overall, I have mixed feelings on Daima altogether. I enjoyed it, but I don't think that it's as good as it's cracked up to be. I think that for a final project, or just because it's the last thing Akira worked on, of course a lot of people are going to say it was great and it was amazing and all this stuff, and there are a lot of good things about it, but to me, honestly, I feel like there's more negatives. And it's not me just trying to be negative. Like, I honestly really did try to not be so critical, being that it is Akira's last project, but there are some things that irritate the fuck out of me, okay? And let me just start with this ending, alright? Now, usually, I don't start from an ending, but the ending is what a lot of people are talking about right now, because obviously the ending, we can all tell that this is Akira Toriyama's flavor right here, right? This type of ending is definitely up Akira Toriyama's alley. This is solely him, okay? This is all him, this ending. I did not have a problem with the plot twist at the end with Majin Q, but the problem that I have, and the problem that has been consistently an issue with Dragon Ball, is the fact that they don't explain anything. Dragon Ball Super had this issue where they explained things partially, but there were always a lot of things going on and happening on screen without an explanation, or without a logical reason for it happening. And I think that, anyone who watches a show that has a continuity, like if you watch a series, right? Any series that you watch on Netflix, the story will progress from episode 1 to 10. Events happen, things change, and as the seasons go on, your characters develop, right? Stay with me here. This is like common sense. Like, this is normal. Like, no one ever questions this type of stuff when you're watching a series, right? But for some reason with Dragon Ball, it seems like as time goes on, I think that Akira Toriyama really did not want to make the story the way that the story had been for the last decade or so. And the reason why I say that is because if you have ever watched a cartoon, not an anime, but a cartoon series, like Tom and Jerry, or just any type of cartoon series that doesn't have a continuity to it, every episode is different. So the first episode will be something, the second episode will not be connected to the first. Every episode will be completely different. So I honestly think that what Dragon Ball has become now is it's become something to where every movie or every special or every series has become kind of like its own thing, right? Kind of like Daima is, I don't care what anybody says, Daima is not connected to anything. Realistically speaking, that's the most logical way to honestly think about it, because if you think about it any other way, it's just a bunch of confusion. If you just think about it as its own thing, I believe that it'll flow much better with all of us in general. So, at least for me, I think of Daima as its own separate thing, but you could also connect it if you would like to go that route and connect it to whatever. But it just seems like Akira is more of the type of person, and now I don't know if maybe he didn't figure this out before he died, or maybe he did figure this out about himself before he died, but as a storyteller, I believe that, Akira does not like making long, cohesive storylines. I believe that Akira's thing was more of like one takes, one offs, and disconnected like little specials. Just like how a cartoon is, with like every episode being different. It seems to me like this is the type of thing, this is the type of style that Akira probably would have excelled in, more than telling a long drawn out story. It seems like he was never interested in making any type of long drawn out stories. Even back when Z was out, he complained about the deadlines and said, he felt a huge sense of relief when he finished up Z, because he was tired of the deadlines and what the editors were actually requiring of him to produce something that actually could hold up to standards, anime standards. Akira is a lazy bum, alright? He said it himself, he called himself a lazy bum. Now, I'm not being disrespectful here when I say this, but I do believe that because Akira was so involved here, that the editors for Daima were not actually considering, they weren't actually doing their job as editors and actually looking at the story and demanding for Akira to polish it more and refine it more. I believe they wanted, his last piece of work to be received in his vision so that we could see his full vision without it being tainted by, any type of interference. But at the same time, that works against the show, because the show, it does not really explain anything. There's just a bunch of colors and there's a bunch of flashy things going on. We don't know anything about Super Saiyan 4. We don't know about Neva's power. Neva doesn't talk. We don't get any type of information at the end of the show. A lot of questions are unanswered. They just kind of waved this off in the end with Goku saying that he's already tapped into Super Saiyan 4, but he just didn't know how to access it. Like, all this stuff just doesn't make sense, it has so many plot holes that it almost makes me think that Akira did this intentionally. Like, it feels as though he doesn't want to make a storyline that connects and progresses naturally. It seems like he just wants to do little fun specials, and honestly, at his age, it's like, in a way, I don't blame him. But I do blame the editors. I blame the editors for a lot of the new Dragon Ball material being so, not having depth, not having good storytelling, not explaining things. Toyotaro's tried his best to kind of, make sense of things with what he's dealt with as an editor, but he doesn't even do a good job, to be honest. There was a thing that was going on a year ago or 2 years ago. People were talking about how in the superhero film, Goku makes fun of Vegeta, or says something about, like, because he was meditating, and Goku makes it seem as if he's never meditated before or something like that. And I guess Toyotaro fixed that in the manga and changed the dialogue because he knows, and he was like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Goku has meditated, a lot in the Saiyan saga and in early Dragon Ball. So, a lot of the things in the story are Akira Toriyama has forgotten a lot. And honestly, he didn't have any passion for Dragon Ball after Z was complete. That's why he gave his blessings over to Toei Animation. And, with GT, they wanted him to be involved, but he said that he did not want to be held up by deadlines and he just wanted to be free of working on any type of series. So he named Dragon Ball GT, he drew some of the designs of the characters, and he gave a little bit of ideas here and there, and he didn't want to be involved because he was simply just lazy, and I think that this is a result of when you have a person who really doesn't want to put the effort in, this is what you get. So once again, I think Daima is better than Dragon Ball Super in my opinion, just because of how it looks. But story-wise, it isn't really bringing anything new to the table. And honestly, I feel kind of cheated and I feel robbed of my experience because now every time I watch Daima, I've got to turn off my brain because nothing makes sense here. We're just throwing a bunch of information. Well, we're just throwing a bunch of things and without any information. Like Vegeta turned Super Saiyan 3, that's awesome. But why don't we get an explanation of how he got it? When Vegeta first turned into a Super Saiyan, he talks about how he got the form and how he was on a planet and the planet was about to get hit by an asteroid and he had to survive in that moment or else he was going to actually die out there and he wasn't going to be able to come back to Earth. So he had no choice but to turn Super Saiyan because he actually thought he was going to die. We get that backstory, we get the scene, and we get the explanation. Countless times we've gotten explanations in Dragon Ball Z. And it's just like now we don't get an explanation for anything. We're just left to make up shit in our heads. Same thing happened with Rage Trunks, Beast Gohan. We're just left to make the assumption ourselves. And it just irritates me. Because I don't want to have to make assumptions up about these characters. I want to know where these forms originate from. Give me the lore, give me the information, and that's just one part of it. The second part of it is that, stakes are now not important in Dragon Ball because it just seems like there isn't any really life-threatening stakes like that. Like, you got the Dragon Balls to rely on, right? And Goma is just a villain that no one takes serious. And you could just tell, like, there was no really need to really defeat him. There was no, desperation. There was no foreshadowing of any of these transformations. There was no build-up. It just seems like, for as much as people hate on Dragon Ball Heroes, which is pretty bad to me, it's only for promotional purposes, but for as much shit as people talk on Dragon Ball Heroes, honestly, Akira is not too far from it. His writing style is not too far from Dragon Ball Heroes. I mean, it's just a bunch of random shit happening. And at this point, I think that in order to enjoy Dragon Ball now, you just have to go in without your brain. And it's a shame, It's a shame because I think that this show had potential to be just as good as Z, and in some moments it wants to be better than Dragon Ball Z, and it feels like in some, like the scene of Goku transforming into all of his forms feels like, a scene from Dragon Ball Z, but then he doesn't say this is Super Saiyan 4, there's barely any dialogue, it just feels very empty, it feels very empty. It feels like a bunch of things happening, but there's really no substance. And that's really what Dragon Ball is missing. It's missing substance, it's missing a compelling story, and I get it. Akira Toriyama, Dragon Ball has never been story heavy like something along the lines of Naruto, but still, that's what we expect at the bare minimum, is at least a story that we can follow. And that's another reason why I appreciate Dragon Ball GT so much, is because it actually felt like a progression of the characters, and the story going forward made a lot of sense. Especially the ending was beautiful. It was wrapped up nicely. But, this lackluster ending just left a bad taste in my mouth. And for as beautiful as Daima was, man, it's just really disappointing to me. So anyway, guys, that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I really just think Daima could have been better. I give it a 7 out of 10 if I were to rate it. I'd put it above Dragon Ball Super, but I still feel like it was a lot of wasted potential. Unless there's going to be a series that directly continues after this, which there probably won't be, I think that, Daima was good for what it was, but I honestly at this point don't think anything's going to come close to Dragon Ball Z, and that's all I have to say about it.